Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you are all well. I'm going to explain to you guys today just how to do solid sections. Now, first of all, solid sections are not that difficult. There's a few principles that you need to understand. If you've got those principles, you will be able to answer it every time. So I'm going to start off with this question here. I'm going to do the lesson in English so that we can include everybody. I will touch here and there in Afrikaans as well. So in the question, we will see a lot of things. We will see that they are saying they are given the front and the right, the front view of a right square pyramid. So there's the right square pyramid. The base is a square. Leaning against a right pentagonal pyramid. So there is a pentagonal pyramid. Here's the top view of it. It's a pentagon. And it's also a pyramid going to a tip there. And we are seeing the top view of both these solids. So the fact that I'm seeing hidden lines there, immediately if I take it up, I can see that this thing is standing with its edge or with its tip downward. If I have a look at this one, I would see that the tip is actually going upward. And in the question, we have a cutting plane AA. Now, first of all, always to remember is we are working in first angle. So when we are doing a section, the section arrows will always be pointing towards the view where I am going to do the section. So what that means is if I'm doing a sectional top view, this is the top view, the arrows will be pointing towards that top view. If I'm doing a sectional left view, you guys will see my left view would be on this side. So then my arrows would be pointing to the left, to the view on the left. That would be, in other words, this part. If I'm doing a right section, the arrows would be pointing towards my right view. And always to remember is the part that I'm sectioning away, that I'm going to take away eventually in my sectional view, is always the part on the side of the arrow. So this should make sense to you. If I'm doing then a sectional top view, that would mean that I am going to remove the part on the arrow side. So that the arrows are pointing towards the top view. And then I'm going to remove the area on the side of the arrow. If I'm doing, for instance, a right view, the arrows would be pointing to the right view. Then I would be moving the bottom section of that view, and I would be doing the section then in the right view. If I'm doing a sectional left view, I would be pointing the arrows to the left view, and I'm going to remove this side. So very important to remember which side I'm going to cut away. Now, to save some time, I've already drawn out the pentagon. Now this question made it a little bit, it's got a bit of a snag, a catch. The catch is that we have to redraw everything here. And so number one, if you find something like this where they say draw it from point S. Now many students might struggle to draw pentagon from point S because they are starting over here. They are starting over here in this on this bottom line. So if you don't know what to do, just ignore that point S and start anywhere on your page at the bottom here, because you might only lose one mark and you're going to save a lot more time. If you, so I wouldn't go and sit on it. For the rest, you need to go, and if you get something like this, you have to draw it out separately first. So I drew out the pentagon here. There's two ways for getting the center point. You can bisect any given corner. So for the people who forgot their grade 10 work, I can just simply go and just make a marker here on the one side, make a marker there, put my compass there, make a mark, put my compass there, make another mark, draw a line through that point, and I would get the center point. I can do that, of course, with any two corners. I can also go, and there's an easier method, and this method works on any object where I have an irregular amount of size, like a triangle, a pentagon, etc. So then what I do is I put my triangle with a 90-degree angle on one of the base sides of this, or on one of the sides of the object, and I aim for the opposite corner. That will always give me the center point. So if I do that on any two of these, I will also find the center point. Once you've got the center point, now I can actually go and measure how far it's from there to there. I can then obviously restart my construction and I can complete my drawing. Okay, so I hope this gave you a little bit of help just to get started on your drawing. So I'm just going to write, if it's not clear, this is 61, this is 31, that height is 38, and this side here is 50, and this here is 35. Okay, so I'm going to try and do this as quickly as possible. All right, so number one, I've redrawn this pentagon here for the people who are unsure. 360 divided by 5 sides gives me a base angle on the outside of 72 degrees. So you can use a protractor, you can measure out for yourself a 72 degrees and make a marker and draw your lines. Remember, all the lines are equal, so you're going to mark it off. The other option is taking this length and drawing a perpendicular line 1.5 times that length. So in other words, you're going to take that length once and another half of that length, and you're going to add it. That should give you 1.5 times obviously that length of the base. I draw 2 lines through those points there, and that will give you your angles of 72 degrees. That's just a different method of drawing a pentagon. There is more, but there's just 2 that you can work from. Okay, now the next thing I'm going to do is I obviously need to draw in the center lines here. So I am going to just quickly draw in the center. I'm not going to draw too dark because obviously we are going to do a section. So I'm going to do this quickly. Alright, I've completed my pentagon here. Now my next step is I'm going to draw the front view of this pentagon. It's 61 high. You can use any distance in between here. There's not a specific size that you need to use. So I'm just going to make sure my ruler is fine. I'm going to make it a centimeter. I'm just going to draw my own XY line here. Alright, so that XY line I'm referring to is basically the line between my views. I'm just going to project all of these lines up. And I'm drawing a little bit darker for the video, but normally I make my construction lines a bit more faint. Okay, I'm going to keep about a centimeter there. Like I said, there's not a specific size you need to make it. I'm going to draw a line there. And that height is supposed to be, if I'm not mistaken, is supposed to be 61. So I'm just going to measure 61 millimeters here. Okay, I'm going to draw my pyramid, my front view. I am going to draw in as well these 2 lines that are dark. I'll say something about that in a moment. Okay, I drew a little bit inaccurate there. Okay, and this line over here is going to be a hidden line. Okay, the reason this one is a hidden line is simply because I'm looking from this side and that line there is hidden from the back. My next step would be I'm going to number all my points. I always do this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.0. That's going to be 1. There's going to be 2, 3, 4, and obviously 5 at the back. So I always write the lines closest to me below the line and the ones at the back above the line. Don't forget about 0. So I'm going to do that one there. Then what I almost want to say to you is if you have something like this, break it up into 2 parts. So do the section on the pentagon, and then you can do the section on the square pyramid. So don't try and do both at the same time. Do the one and then you do the other one after that. Okay, just makes it easier. Now my angle is going to be 30 degrees. It's passing through that point. So I'm just going to draw a section line for myself here. Just going to extend it a little bit because we're going to have another object there later. Okay, now I'm going to do the section. Now the principle I want to teach you, we're doing a sectional top view, remember, arrows pointing downward. I'm just going to quickly draw it there. This side will fall away, the arrow side, but I'm going to draw the section where the arrows are pointing, in other words down here. Now the first principle is when I cut through the base or the bottom of any solid object, it will always give me a straight line. So remember that, whether it's a prism or a pyramid. So I'm going to take that line and I'm going to draw it straight through on my top view. Okay, that's the first thing you do. So there's point 2 closest to you, and it's also going to give a line at the back because the cutting plane is going through the whole thing. My next one, I'm going to go around the front and then around the back. This is the front, there's the back. Alright, so I'm going to start by point 2. I'm going to go to my next cutting point, which is not 5, 5 is at the back. It would be number 3. So I'm going to go, take number 3, draw a construction line down, and there's my cutting point for 3. And you label it 3 with a little circle around if you want. Then I'm going to do point 4. Same thing, draw it down, I mark it there on 4, I put a little circle around it, there we go. Then I'm going to go to point 5. Now with 5 there's a bit of a problem, because if I bring it down I cannot see where it cuts. So I can either use another view to get that point and project it over, or I can of course go and use a construction called the help method. So how does the help method work? I go horizontal from that point to the line on the side. I'm going to project that line down onto the same line, which is line 4. Very important, so check where you are cutting. I'm going to take it to 4, down there, and then I am going to work parallel by using a triangle and a ruler, and I'm just going to project that line over, to this line, and that's where I find my cutting point on that line. So just once again, it's called the help method because I'm going horizontal. In English, in Afrikaans we say loodreg, which is perpendicular down onto that line that I used, which is 4. Then I go parallel. There's the P of the help. Okay, so horizontal, perpendicular, and parallel. You can almost call it H, P, perpendicular, parallel. Okay, so there's my point 5. Okay, please note that this is only the cutting point for number 5. I'm just going to put a line with a circle around it. Okay, next thing, I'm going to join my line. So I'm going to go from point 2 to point 3. I've got a line there. I'm going to go from point 3 to point 4. I'm going to go from point 4 to point 5. Please note, don't confuse point 4's cutting point with that horizontal, perpendicular, parallel line. Right, and now I'm going to go back to where the cutting plane started, which was on the back here. So remember, the line goes all the way through. So there's my first part. Now, gentlemen and ladies, how do I know what falls away, what stays? Very easy. Everything that I am coloring in will fall away. Okay, so basically this whole part over here that I'm coloring in now is the part that's going to be removed. So that means from that cutting point to point 1, from the cutting point to point 1, from the cutting point from 2 to 1. So you erase that whole bit, will fall away. Then obviously you can take every cutting point from there. 2.0 falls away, that line will be removed, this one will be removed, this one will be removed, that one in its entirety will be removed, etc. Okay, so the only part that you're going to leave left with is only the bottom half, which is basically this area here. And I'm just going to make that clear for you by using a pen. So this is the part that I am left with, and I hatch it at 45 degrees. Okay, remember also to show all your hidden lines in the section. These days they want it. In previous years you didn't have to put it in, but for some reason they now want the hidden lines in the section, so we have to still show all the hidden lines and then add in the hatching. Now, I don't know if you guys know how to do this, but what I normally do is I take my 45-degree triangle, I open up my compass on a certain size, and I scribe a line in on the bottom like this, and then I can use that for my hatching to get it equally spaced. So I'm just quickly going to place it here on 45 degrees as I mentioned earlier. This is one object, so it will be in this direction. So I'm going to draw a line and I'm going to move it onto the next line. Your hatching doesn't need to be that close together. Always scale it to the size of your drawing. But in the exam, you want to save some time and you're not going to do your hatching too close together. Okay, so that's what I'm left with when I've sectioned this. This is basically grade 10 work. The only difficult thing was maybe the redrawing of that. That was the only higher order part. I'm just quickly going to pause the video. I'm going to start by drawing the square now. Okay, so we're going to continue and we're going to do the section for the top view through this square pyramid, which is lying with its tip downward. Okay. So first of all, to draw this thing out, what I'm going to do is to position it, I'm going to use the 38 height that they gave me, and from the base I'm going to measure 38 up, so that's your starting place here. Well, that would be a good starting place, I would say, and I'm just quickly going to measure that off. So from that given line I am going to measure my 38. Okay. I'm going to draw a little construction line there for myself, and now I know anywhere on this line, you know, where it touches, then I know exactly, listen, there's the connection point between the two objects. Then obviously the base is 50, it's square, so that would mean it's going to be 50 across as well. So that shouldn't be too difficult. So I use this point here and I measure from that point 50 across. You can also go 25, 25, there's my 50, and 25 is exactly half of it, which I'm going to need in a moment. And I am now going to continue by drawing this 25 millimeter line down. Okay, so I'm going to make a construction line here. I am going to use that point there, and I'm quickly going to complete this object. So I'm going to draw the line across here. Okay, so I've got my square pyramid here. I draw in a line there. I'm going to make it a little bit darker than the previous one so that it should be clear enough, so there shouldn't be any confusion here. Okay, so here's my front view of my square pyramid. Okay, now I can use the front view to draw down and to get my top view. Now please note that this will run slightly over my existing drawing, but don't let that bother you. I am going to draw these lines down. I am going to use a black pen to make it clear. Okay, so I'm going to bring this down. I'm going to bring the center down. I'm going to bring that edge down. Alright, this now should give me what I'm looking for. Obviously, these two objects are also from the center line, 25 up, 25 down. So I am going to quickly mark that off. So there's my 25 to the bottom. Here's my 25 to the top, giving me my 50. Just going to draw a line across. It's going to end in line with that one. Here's the other one. Will end in line with that one. Okay. Now I need to draw my hidden lines because I'm going to need them. So I'm going to put in all the hidden lines. Al die verborgde lyne sit ons in vir die Afrikaanse leerders. Ek gaan ook 'n lyntjie so oortrek. Ekskuus, hierdie punt breek die hele tyd. Right, trek daai lyntjie wat jy moet hulle insit want ons gaan hulle nodig hê om die snit te doen. Now what I'm going to do is, this is two new objects. What I'm going to do is I have to do my section here passing through this area as well. Now I am going to number it accordingly. I'm going to do this one differently. I'm going to call it A, B, C, D, and point X in the middle there. Okay, so in the front I'm going to have A and B. I'm going to have C at the back, so I'm just going to write that below the line, D at the back, below the line, and point X there at the bottom. Please note there's not a line there. That's just like the center of that object. It should be a center line actually. Okay, so now let's quickly have a look at the section. The section will pass through this point. It will also pass through that point, which is a very easy section to do. I would say, although this drawing looks difficult, this is definitely on a grade 11 level. It's not a difficult drawing. The only higher order part is the redrawing, which is not that hard. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, I'm going to bring down the section points. So first of all, I am going to check it's on XA and XD. So if I say XA and XD, I'm referring to this line, XA, XA, XD, XD, which is now, the one line is lying like this and the other one is lying like that. Okay, so I'm going to bring that perpendicular down. Okay, it's going to give me a cutting point over here. It is also going to give me a cutting point over there. So please note I'm cutting through 2 points. So D and through A, not just one. Okay, over here I'm cutting through the base once again. That will give me, like in the previous one, a straight line. So I'm just going to draw a straight line through here. Okay, so there's that one and the other one I've done. Okay, now once again, from the front, which is this point here, I'm going to have a line running up to that point, which is here. I can remember in school this always confused me. I never knew how to connect it. Get a method. The method is take the point closest to you in both views. Move on to the next point, which is going to be that one. Then know it's going straight through, straight line at the back from that point at the back, which is on CD. Then I'm going to go back down and I'm going to run to that point and then it's going to go straight through. Okay, so here's my section. What's going to be left is obviously once again everything that will be sectioned away is everything on the arrow side. Remember the arrows are pointing in this direction now. So I'm removing this area here, which now simply means that I will erase everything from A to that cutting point. So everything from A to the cutting point, that will be removed. This line will fall away. The line at the back up to that point. Everything on the blue side will fall away. All these lines will be taken away as well. So all these hidden lines will all be taken away. So only the parts in black is what stays. I am going to draw it in for clarity. I am not going to erase it now, but the black lines are the lines that stay. So this part stays there. Here's my hidden lines. So please draw in your hidden lines, you get marks for it. Okay, here's the hidden lines at the bottom. There's the hidden line on that view. Here's the hidden lines on this view. Okay, and now obviously this is an open space. The hatch part is this area here, which refers to this corner here. Now because, well, some books might differ, but in my opinion, this is two different objects. So it's a pyramid and another pyramid. So I will definitely hatch them in two opposite directions. So some books might show you differently, but if I read the question, this makes sense to me. You can confirm with your teacher as well, or you can also look at some online examples of the matric end exam if you want to confirm that. But in my opinion, this is two different objects that we have, so I need to hatch in opposite directions. So here's the first one. I'm just running it in 45 in the opposite direction. Fantastic, and I have just finished my top view. Now your question might be, do I need to erase? Well, you don't have to erase anything as long as the lines that you have are faint lines. In other words, lines that you can actually, that you can clearly see that it's only lines that are there for construction. So they must be a lot more faint. If you want to get that, take your pencil here at the back, then you will press a little bit lighter on your pencil. It should make it easier. Okay, so what I'm going to do next, I think to save some time in this video, there's also a sectional left view which I can also do. Two ways for getting that. I'm just going to start, maybe I should do it. So I'm just going to start off by putting a line across here. Now once again, to understand what's going on here, what we actually have is we have got the first angle, and the first angle is this box here, and there's another panel there. This is where I draw my front, top, my left view and my right view. Then I swivel it out and down. So what I'm left with is the panels as seen in this sketch. Okay, so there's my front, my top, my left and my right. Now why is my left view lying on the right hand side? Because I'm looking from the left, but I draw what I see, whatever it is, a pyramid or whatever, on this panel which is on the right hand side, and then I fold it open. The pivot for these panels are there and there and there. So in other words, over there, over there and over there. And then I use a 45-degree line to transfer my widths from my top view to my left or to my right view. Okay, because my width, if you understand this, the width that I have in the top view is exactly the same width if I turn it that I will have in my left and in my right view, and that's why I normally use a 45-degree projection line. There is another method which we're not going to focus on now, the punt, grondlyn, punt method, which is more applicable. You can use it, but I would rather use that when I am working with, for instance, if I'm working, for instance, with something like angled objects. So if this pyramid was lying at an angle, I would rather use that method. Okay, so first of all, I've got this 45-degree projection line, and I actually need to use the original points I had. So it's a good idea to draw all of this before you start doing your sections, okay? Or just to keep your construction line. So I'm just going to take this over, going to take this one over, going to take the tip over, okay? Project it upward. So I'm working in line with this square pyramid. It's still going to give me exactly the same view. It's going to look the same because there's X, there's X. So you can take X over and X up, there's X. Or you can say point, ground line, point, ground line, point. And you can, of course, this is the other method that we sometimes use. You can measure this from the point to that XY line here, and go to X and go to the other XY line and measure it, and you will see it get the same point. Okay, so that's another method for doing it, and that goes for all your points, all projected over a 45-degree line. So there is point X. Just quickly again, if you want to use that other method, if I want to get the point here, I will go, for instance, and check this is C and D. So if I want to get point C here, I'm going to go punt, which is in line with C, point, ground line is this, lines between the objects, so the XY lines. So we're going to start with a point, XY line. I want to get point B, point, XY line, and point. And I can measure this distance to the XY line, always not to the view, but to the XY line. Measure this and place it from that XY line, and it should give you, if you worked accurately, it should give you point B in this view. So let's just quickly have a look. That was slightly inaccurate. Yeah, there we are. So there's point B is going to be on that line. So use either method that you understand, but you should be sure to understand both, because you will need them both in the future. Okay, so I'm just going to do this quickly. To understand this, it's not easy to see the points in the front view, but if I look in the top view, I will see there's point D and C, so just bring it there and there. So this must be D and C. There's A and B. Take it up. You can even write here A and B, C and D, and X, and then you just take it up. C and D, A and B, there's A and B, so there's going to be A and B, and X. And guys, easy. You just quickly draw it in. Okay, so I've done my square pyramid now. I am going to do the hexagonal pyramid now as well. Now just please note that the hexagonal pyramid, when I'm looking from the left hand side, you will find that the hexagonal pyramid is the thing that you're going to see first. So because it's closer to you, you can clearly see the blue here is in front of this one. You're going to see this one first. So whatever you draw of this hexagonal pyramid will be, or pentagonal rather, pentagonal pyramid will be covering up anything behind it. So this view will be covered up partly. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Alright, so I'm going to project these points over in the same way to take confusion out. I'm going to use the blue pen for that. So I'm still using the 45-degree line. Take this one over. I am taking, so I'm actually drawing the original object. I'm not doing a section now. I'm always first drawing the object. Okay, so there, this will be 2 and 3. This will be point 1. That will be point 5. And let's have a look at point 0, which is in line with that one. Okay, so let's take it up. So there's my point 0 right at the top, in line with 0. You see how important it is to number? That is your key to solving these problems, is number your points. Okay, so I've got a point 0 there. Taking it up, I've got this pyramid here, so I'm going to project over, project up. So I'm looking for 5, project over, project up. There's point 5, bring it over, and there of course is 0.5. I'm going to encircle it, or just for clarity, it's not a section now, it's just for clarity. 2 and 3 I'm taking over onto this line. I am taking it upward. Now 2 and 3 will be over here. And now I am going to just check. I also need 0.1. There's 0.1. I'll take it up, in line there. There's 0.1. Okay, now once again, just start here. What's in front of me? 5, 1 and 2. 5, 1 and 2. So they are all going to be visible lines. So 5, 1 and 2 is closest to me when I'm looking from the left hand side. So 5, 1 and 2 obviously need to be dark lines here. So I am going to do them here just faintly first, because I still need to do a section. Okay, so there's 5, 1 and 2. And then obviously 0.1 must also be a visible line. Alright, and now everything that will be hidden will be everything that I see over here. I'm just quickly going to pause my video for a moment.